Dark Side of the Moon, written by Blondie, aka Robin, and based on the novel New Moon by Stephanie Meyer. Read by Oh What a Storm. There is no dark side of the moon, really. Matter of fact, it's all dark. Pink Floyd, Eclipse. Preface. We made no sound as we walked across the cobblestones in the moonlight. The two vampires on either side of me were filled with questions, but neither spoke. How does he stomach animal blood? Why bother? I hope he puts up a fight. An easy kill would be boring. He doesn't look like much. Maybe he's fast? Neither one knew what my fate would be. The Volturi had made their decision alone, wanting to surprise me with their verdict. Apparently, their power came with a healthy dose of pride and arrogance. He should be here momentarily. Aro's voice echoed in Caius's ears. I assume that you are in range by now, my young friend. I scanned the other minds present, looking for clues as to my future. But Caius was guarding his thoughts as well. The white-haired ancient was looking at Jane. We should let her have some fun with this one, he thought, and he remembered how the last vampire she'd tortured writhed and screamed. I should have been afraid, knowing that I was facing the sadistic young girl. But if it led to my demise, I didn't really care. I deserved nothing less. Bella was dead because of me. Physical pain would just disappear into the void created by her loss. Only the end result mattered to me, that I became a smoking pile of ash. Felix opened the golden door before me, and I calmly stepped forward to meet my fate. Chapter 1, Birthday. She'll be here soon, Alice thought, and bounced on her toes excitedly. On yet another dreary day, we stood in the parking lot of Forks High School, waiting for an equally dreary set of lectures. I didn't share the excitement of graduating that the other seniors in the school did, probably because I'd already done it a dozen times. This year was different, though, for one reason: Bella Swan. She'd turned my entire existence upside down when she'd come to Forks, unaffected by the fear I inspired in other humans. Instead of screaming and running from me, a murderous creature of myth, she was inconceivably drawn to my side, to my ice-cold touch, not shrinking away even when she learned what I really was. Her calm response to my admission of being a vampire still stunned me. The words still echoed in my mind. It doesn't matter. Hi, Alice, Angela Weber called as her boyfriend, Ben Chaney, took her arm and escorted her toward the buildings. She looks happy today, even more than usual, she thought, and smiled back. Angela had accepted Alice and me almost as easily as Bella had, only increasing my admiration for her. Though she sensed the danger we presented, Angela was not one to judge or condemn. She was a purely good spirit, embodying every gracious aspect that her name inspired. Cullen looks nervous. I wonder what's up. Ben tightened his grip on Angela's arm and waved tentatively to me, and I raised my hand in response. His sense of self-preservation was stronger than either Angela or Bella's, but it didn't bother me. We should be feared. See you in class, Angela, Alice nearly sang as she made a perfect pirouette in front of me. Over the past few days, she'd been growing more and more antsy, impatient for today to arrive. Even Jasper was becoming annoyed with her, a rarity to say the least. I pitied Bella. She was only vaguely aware of what my sister was capable of. Alice's thoughts were an incoherent buzz in my mind as she ticked off all the plans she'd made. Alice, calm down. You're giving me a headache. I leaned against my car, trying to relax as I waited for my love to arrive. Truth be told, I was just as jumpy as Alice was, but not due to excitement, but concern. Bella had been dreading today, her 18th birthday. The thunder of Bella's ancient truck finally broke through the noise around us, and my head snapped around. None of the human students could hear it yet, but Alice had. She glanced up at me with a smirk, knowing that it was still at least a mile away. "Only 2 more minutes," she thought, and giggled, spinning a small silver square between her fingers. The campus parking lot was starting to fill, but no one tried to park next to me. They knew that only one vehicle was welcome here. For a moment, I listened to the mundane workings of the human minds around me, trying to ignore my hyperactive sister. "There's Mike. Should I comment on how good his hair looks today?" Jessica Stanley's unimaginative thoughts were the first to penetrate my consciousness. "I haven't seen him with anyone this year. Maybe." She wasn't completely over Mike Newton's rejection, still living in her shallow world of denial, desperately hoping that he was secretly waiting for the perfect moment to take her back. While Mike deserved nothing less than the self-absorbed Jessica, her hopes were in vain. As usual, Newton was completely oblivious to her stares. Crap, was the vocab assignment due today? That idiot could never remember anything. I rolled my eyes at his thoughts. How hard was it to write down a due date? Mike Newton had no idea how lucky he was to be alive. How many times had I considered relieving him of the burden of breathing in the past 8 months? Every time he thought about Bella, my Bella, how pretty she looked, how cute she sounded, how he considered himself above me, led to a murderous fantasy on my part. I'd imagined killing him in every excruciating, violent way I could think of, and it was only with enormous self-restraint that I'd kept from following through on my daydreams. I'd assumed that after the prom he would have finally dismissed all thoughts of Bella, but then she had to go and get a job at Newton's Outfitters. Once again, Bella's thought processes were all backwards. "I need the money for college. And gas. You of all people should know that, the way you berate my truck," she'd said in an attempt to justify her job. At the time, I'd fingered the money clip in my pocket, knowing without looking that I had more in my hand than she'd make in a dozen summers at Newton's. Her pride and self-reliance prevented her from accepting even a dime from me, even though it was a trivial gesture on my part. I drew the money out of my pocket anyway, anticipating the lovely look of chagrin that filled her face. I wasn't disappointed. "Gas money is not a good enough reason. How much do you need?" I unfolded a crisp 100 and held it up. "Don't even think about trying to give me money. I won't take it," she grumbled, and I stifled my smirk. I pocketed the cash, but other ways of ending Bella's gas shortage began to fill my mind. She saw right through me, though, surprising me yet again by her astute perception. "I'd better not win the lottery, or find a wallet, or a missing child or something that leads to a huge reward. And don't put gas in my truck while I sleep, either." "You are being absurd. Would I do such a thing?" She rolled her eyes, correctly distrusting the innocent look I gave her. I leaned down and kissed her forehead, hoping to convince her in a different way. "What am I supposed to do while you are working?" I said seductively. When my lips touched her skin, the fiery thirst in my throat roared, but the pain was nearly pleasurable. It meant her vibrant body was close, safe, and human. Her chin rose and she put her hand on my cheek, sending a different fire through my body. "You should spend some time with your family. I've been very selfish stealing you away for nearly 24 hours a day. Go hunt with Emmett. He would love that." She'd sensed Emmett's frustration. She saw everything, didn't she? "Bella," I tried to argue, but she held up her hand. "You know how much Charlie wants me to do this. I can't just ignore the job he helped me to get. It'll make him happy, and then maybe he'll lay off you." Charlie. Of course he would want her to do this. He'd been trying to separate me from his daughter for some time now. After Bella returned from Phoenix, beaten and up to her hip in plaster, the tenor of his thoughts toward me had been less than friendly. Anger and distrust swirled in his mind with unusual clarity whenever I came near, along with his own thoughts of violence. When he arrived home from work on that warm July afternoon, It was with a taunting smile that he gave Bella the offer from Mrs. Newton for a part-time job. I didn't need to read his mind to know it was his dream come true. Bella would leave my side and be forced to spend time with the boy he thought she belonged with, Mike Newton. The same frown I'd worn when Charlie made his announcement filled my face again. Bella stroked my cheek, making it difficult for me to stay angry. "Work is something that humans do, Edward, but I'm always open to change," she said, and I winced. She couldn't resist picking at my resolve to keep her heart beating. I refused to damn her with immortality, and she refused to accept her humanity. The subject of our impasse was always a conversation stopper, and she'd used it to effectively close the subject of her employment. 2 days later, we stood in nearly the same spot in her kitchen. "It's only for 4 hours," she said as she rested her head against my chest. "An eternity." I took a deep breath, inhaling as much of her scent as I could. 4 hours would not affect my resistance to the infernal thirst for her blood, but the pain would move from my throat to my chest in her absence. I wouldn't be too far away, though. "You and Emmett have plans, right?" she asked. "Yes, we do." Sometimes it seemed she could read my mind. I changed the subject before she could ask what our plans entailed. "But I'll be right here when you get home." I leaned down, sliding my hand under her hair and against her warm neck. The heat was deceiving, giving the illusion of power and strength in Bella's fragile body, when in fact she was as delicate as a glass figurine in my hands. "I'm counting on that," she whispered, and locked her eyes on mine. Her pupils dilated as she stared, becoming unfocused, and I grinned, enjoying how I dazzled her. Our lips met, and my entire body exploded with sensual warmth. I could taste her scent on my tongue, barely resisting the urge to run it along her lips. When more volatile memories of her flavor surfaced, I pulled back reluctantly. I expected her reaction, prepared for it, but it still stunned me. She pressed her chest against mine, and I felt every soft curve mold itself to me, separated by just a few layers of annoying fabric. For a half a second, my mind wandered, wanting to experience her skin against mine, without the clothing, and the thought made me tremble. With great effort, I continued to lift my head from hers, carefully breaking her hold, but not her bones. She was so fragile, so human. How I wished I was too. "I love you," she said, her eyes pools of melted chocolate. "And I love you." The words were so inadequate, but they were the ones she could understand. I released my Bella, and she winked as she got in her truck and drove away. Already I felt empty. The next hours would be torture. Moments later, Emmett's Jeep pulled into the same spot in the driveway, my brother rubbing his hands together in anticipation as I climbed in. "So, bro, what are we doing? There's been a report of a huge wolf roaming the park." "No, we're going to town." His face fell. "And who is in town? Like I have to ask. What's in this for me?" Emmett's thoughts turned back to angry and frustrated. Bella was right. I'd neglected my relationship with him. "I'm sorry, Emmett. It's just that she's starting work today, at Newton's." The last word came out as a snarl, and I was surprised when he actually smiled. "Bella is working at a sporting goods store? With Mike Newton?" His laugh shook the windows of the house behind me. "Well, that changes everything. Let's go." The tires squealed as he backed out of the driveway and spun around. "Why are you so happy about it?" I sneered. "Your girl will be spending the next few hours surrounded by bats, balls, rackets, fishing rods, and pop-up tents. I can't wait to see her demonstrate an elliptical trainer." His mind filled with images of Bella destroying the store, knocking over displays, and getting tied up in netting. And in the middle of it was Newton, trying to help, but receiving several lumps and bruises in the process. Emmett laughed as he imagined Newton explaining his injuries to Carlyle in the emergency room. "Settle down, it won't be that bad," I said, clinging to Alice's vision that Bella wouldn't actually hit her foot with the bowling ball she was going to drop in about 90 minutes. "So what are we going to buy from her?" Emmett asked as we drove into town. "We aren't going to buy anything. She made me promise that I wouldn't visit her at the store today. You, however, are under no such restriction." "And what are you going to do while I'm inside?" He imagined me disassembling Newton's car in the parking lot. An interesting idea. But even in the tiny town of Forks, I would be noticed, removing the body panels of a perfectly good car. "I'll be nearby, don't worry." Listening, especially to that dolt, Newton. "So am I protecting Bella from herself, or Mikey from you?" Emmett asked with his eyebrows raised. I gave him a toothy grin that would have raised goosebumps on every inch of Newton's oily skin. "Both." "Cool." Emmett parked behind the store, keeping me safely out of view of the front windows. Maybe I'll take up archery." "Emmett," I started, and he laughed again. "Don't worry, I'll make sure she doesn't get hurt." I leapt to the roof and easily found Newton's bland thoughts. He was training Bella, showing her where the ladder was so she could reach merchandise on the higher shelves. My teeth came together with a snap when he stood very close behind her as she climbed the ladder to retrieve a box of shoes. Even though he didn't touch her, his thoughts were enough to earn him a death sentence from me. "She smells great. Is that her shampoo or is she wearing perfume? Is she still seeing Cullen?" "Get away from her," I said, mostly to myself. Emmett heard me as he walked through the front door, though. "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." He watched as Bella found the box she wanted and started to slide it out of the middle of a tall stack. Just as the pile tipped, Emmett spoke. "Bella, you work here?" he said loudly, startling her. 10 shoeboxes came tumbling down on top of Mike as Bella grabbed the ladder to keep from falling. I couldn't help but laugh with Emmett, watching the hiking boots bounce off of Newton's skull. Bella teetered on the ladder, though, still a few steps in the air. "Don't let her fall, Em," I cried. He was at Bella's side in an instant, steadying the ladder and helping her down. Mike stood looking at the mess surrounding him, dazed. "She's fine. I swear you are going to be the first vampire to develop an ulcer." He looked down at Bella, who was obviously upset. "What are you doing here?" Bella said through her teeth. "I need a new baseball bat. Do you think you could help me?" Emmett said sweetly. Through Emmett's eyes, I saw Bella huff and turn to Mike. "Are you okay?" she asked, shooting my brother a menacing glance. "Yeah, I'm fine. Maybe I should get the stuff that's up high." He picked up an empty box and began to sort through the shoes, searching for the ones that matched the label on the cardboard. "Let me do this. You can help Emmett," she said, and gave Emmett a snide smile. Okay, if that's what you want," Mike said. Why doesn't she want to take his sale? They all spend money like it's water. Maybe she's scared of him. I sighed. Bella was as stubborn as ever, refusing to even take the commission from Emmett's purchase. Maybe having Newton be protective of Bella wasn't the worst thing. He'd better not let her climb that ladder again. Emmett followed my nemesis over to the racks of baseball bats. "Do you like wood or aluminum?" Mike asked unenthusiastically. "Definitely aluminum. Wood shatters way too easily." Mike's eyes drifted toward Emmett's massive biceps. I could believe he could shatter a bat. The metal bats filled his vision. "Let's see how much he's willing to pay." He picked one of the most expensive bats on the rack. "This one is the best we have. perfectly balanced, designed for maximum trampoline effect. Emmett took the bat, wrapping his fingers around the narrow grip, and swung the bat slowly. For him, anyway. Seems kind of fragile to me. Do you have one with a larger diameter grip? Mike surveyed Emmett's huge fingers. How about this one? It's a little more expensive, but it has a larger carbon composite handle. The only thing big enough for those mitts would be a lamppost. He could snap me in two without breaking a sweat. I snorted. Mike thinks you could break him in half, Em. Hopefully he would understand how much I'd love to see Newton suffer just such a fate. Emmett took the new bat and waved it in a more threatening way, missing Mike's shoulder by an inch. I savored the fear that flooded Newton's mind as he stepped back nervously. Emmett pretended not to notice. I like this one. It's similar to my old one. I'll take it. They walked to the front of the store, passing Bella on the way. She'd nearly finished sorting the shoes and looked nervously at the ladder. I'll put those up. Don't worry about it, Bella, Mike said generously. At least he understood Bella's limitations. Why don't you help those ladies looking at the workout clothes? While Mike was waiting for Emmett's credit card to clear, his thoughts drifted in another direction. What happened to your old bat? He asked. Here's why you love me, Edward, Emmett thought. Well, you know my brother, Edward, right? He picked up a baseball from the stack by the counter. Hey, I'll get this too. Mike cringed at the sound of my name, and I smiled, knowing where Emmett was going. Yeah, we've met. He dated Bella for a while, I think. I hope he had as much luck as I did with Jessica. Maybe Bella is free tonight. I slammed my hand through the side of the AC unit next to me, leaving a fist-sized hole in the thick steel. Yes, he's nuts about her. Emphasis on nuts. Well, we were playing ball last week, and I commented that Bella was kind of, he lowered his voice, clumsy. He didn't like me talking about her like that, and proceeded to wrap my aluminum bat around a tree. He paused, giving Mike a chance to imagine me so angry that I could bend a metal bat. He's a lot stronger than he looks, Emmett added. Wow, I'll say, Mike mumbled. I really need to watch out for him. Emmett wasn't finished. I wonder if he knows that Bella is working here. He wasn't happy to find out she had a job, you know. Emmett scratched his chin, looking back at the ladder. He's very protective of her. Mike swallowed loudly. He is? More like possessive. Oh, yeah. You know how Bella looked after her fall last March? Mike nodded, and I covered my face with my hand. What was Emmett doing now? That's nothing compared to how the hotel manager looked when Edward was through with him. Everyone thought the manager fell from the third-story balcony by accident. The skull fracture damaged his short-term memory, so he couldn't point any fingers. Damn it, he was making a farce of this now. Emmett, cut it out, I groaned. His flair for the dramatic would undermine all his credibility, just when Mike was starting to fear me. Let me work, little brother. Look at him shake. I focused on Mike's mind again, elated to hear his heart start to race as he imagined me throwing a man off a roof. What would happen if Bella got hurt here? He thought, in a panic, glancing at the display of hunting knives near the door. I'm sorry I doubted you, Em. That was excellent. He's terrified of me now. Thanks, I said, laughing. Who knew Mike was as gullible as he was annoying? Bella came up behind Emmett just then, distracting me from Mike's terror. Did you find what you needed? She said curtly. I sure did. Are you and Edward going out after work? She's pissed, you know. Of course she was. I looked at Bella through his eyes and saw the outrage on her face. When she caught the fearful look on Mike's face, her hands balled into fists. Yes, we are. Do you need anything else? The words were sharp, but amusing. A stern dismissal from a frail butterfly. My brother fought back a laugh. Nope, that's it. She's pretty cute when she's mad. I'll tell Rosalie you thought that, I said. He was teasing, but I wasn't in the mood. Geez, calm down, Edward. Mike handed him the bat, making a mental list of the safest places for Bella to work in the store. Thanks. I'll tell Edward I saw you, Emmett said, and Mike blanched. I chuckled, satisfied that Newton wouldn't make any more advances on my Bella. Emmett turned to Bella. You should stay off the ladders, Bella, he said seriously. Thanks, Em, I said sincerely. No problem, bro. Bella pointed her finger at him. I can take care of myself. Go home, Emmett. Tell Edward I'll see you both later. She knew I was close, listening, and I would have to endure her temper when she got off work. Lucky for me, and Emmett, Bella's anger never lasted long, and I knew I could find a way to distract her. The memory of our last kiss returned in a flash. Okay, bye, Mike, Emmett said jovially, and left. You owe me big time. I do, thanks. Do we have to stay here for the next 3 hours? Emmett was swinging his new bat at his normal speed, whistling with it while he waited for me behind the store. I jumped down from the roof, and he threw me the ball. Come on, he's not going to mess with her. He'll probably do everything he can to keep her safe. I listened to Mike's thoughts again, and Emmett's supposition was correct. Mike was concentrating on keeping Bella in the section with sleeping bags and air mattresses where she would be less likely to hurt herself. He even averted his eyes when she bent over to pick up a piece of trash. You're right, he's harmless. Thanks again. Emmett clapped me on the back. Ain't love grand? How about we try out the bat? The clouds look pretty dark to the east. His phone beeped, and I read the text message through his eyes. The bowling ball has disappeared. She'll be fine. Thunder in 10 minutes. Meet you there. My thoughts returned to the present, as the thunder I heard was actually the sound of Bella's truck arriving at school. Mike didn't even look up as it rumbled past him, though his thoughts registered Bella's presence. I met his eyes as he glanced at me furtively, but didn't react. Mike swallowed quickly before picking up his backpack and striding quickly to the restroom. So much trouble just so Bella could earn a mere pittance. Of all the human activities for her to insist on, and then to fight so hard against celebrating the most human of all events, her 18th birthday. Backwards, of course. As Bella pulled into her parking place, Alice spun the present like a top on the tip of her finger. Do you think she'll like it? The question surprised me. Couldn't Alice see Bella's reaction? I looked into her mind and could only see Bella refusing the gift. Of course. I have no idea. You know how Bella is about gifts, so I wouldn't expect her to be happy, assuming you ever get her to open it. Every time I'd given her anything, even just a nice dinner out, she'd sulked and complained, not wanting to allow herself or me any enjoyment. She had so little in the way of material things, and I had so much. Why wouldn't she let me share some of that abundance with her? It was ludicrous. But I wasn't willing to let her throw away this human experience, and Alice had been more than happy to arrange a party for Bella. I couldn't remember any of my human birthdays, and I wasn't going to let her forget this one. It was right for her to celebrate, what I wouldn't give to reach 18. Alice barely let Bella put the truck into park before going to meet her. It was amazing that the rusty vehicle survived so long in rain-soaked Washington. It should have dissolved like a sugar cube in the constant deluge of rain long ago. Bella slammed the door after she jumped out, sending another handful of the vehicle's exterior to oblivion. I'd expected her to be glum today, though it was completely irrational. The furrow between her eyebrows deepened as her vision drifted toward the simple gift in Alice's hands. I fought the urge to push past my sister and take Bella in my arms, though they begged me to do just that. Alice should have her chance. "Happy birthday, Bella," Alice called. "Shh." Bella ducked, as if to hide behind the collar of her jacket. "Do you want to open your present now or later?" "Now, please now," Alice chanted in her head. She knew Bella wouldn't agree to either option, but this time she was hoping to change her vision of the future. "No presents," Bella groaned, and I smiled. Even Alice couldn't sway my stubborn Bella. "Okay," Alice said sadly. "Later, then. Did you like the scrapbook your mom sent you? And the camera from Charlie?" "Yeah, they're great." Bella seemed to shrink down even further. "I think it's a nice idea. You're only a senior once. Might as well document the experience." "The first time," Alice added for my benefit, remembering her vision of Bella with the newborn vampire's flaming red eyes. "Not today, Alice," I whispered quickly. Her arm was close enough to pinch, and I could do it so fast Bella wouldn't see it. Alice flinched away, seeing her future injury, and I changed my mind. Sometimes the threat was better than the actual punishment. "How many times have you been a senior?" Bella argued, unaware of the exchange between us. "That's different," Alice said, turning to me. "Happy?" Bella's eyes tightened, and I reached out to her before she could respond. Her face softened as she turned to me, gracing me with her beautiful countenance. Though I'd only left Bella's side a few hours ago, I was already anxious to see her again. The time away from her was only a blip in my existence, the blink of an eye in my 100+ years, but every second of separation felt like a year. Then, when we were together, the clock seemed to spin faster than it ever had before, especially here in this purgatory that was high school. My perception of time was just one of the many ways that Bella had changed me in the 8 short months I'd known her. She threw her hand into mine, and I couldn't help but gently squeeze it. The heat of her fingers soaked into mine, traveling up my arm and filling me with warmth. Her heart stuttered as she peered up at me, and I smiled wider. Her brown eyes swallowed my view, and for a moment I was lost in them. She didn't seem to comprehend that she dazzled me just as often as I dazzled her. "Happy birthday, my love," I thought, but didn't voice the words. "So, as discussed, I am not allowed to wish you a happy birthday. Is that correct?" I said, tracing her lips with my finger, hoping that she felt the same electric pleasure in my touch that I felt in her balmy, supple skin. "Yes, that is correct," she said formally, a delicious pink coloring her cheeks. "Just checking. You might have changed your mind. Most people seem to enjoy things like birthdays and gifts." Alice laughed. "Of course you'll enjoy it." She tried to look ahead into Bella's future, but could only see me trying to coax my love to get out of her truck in front of our house after school. Until Bella decided she would attend her own birthday party, the future was a mystery. "Everyone is supposed to be nice to you today and give you your way, Bella. What's the worst that could happen?" I barely kept my smile in place. Bella was all too familiar with the worst, and with her luck. "Getting older," Bella grumbled, and I couldn't help but press my lips together. So much for trying to avoid a very tedious argument. Alice was undaunted. 18 isn't very old. Don't women usually wait until they're 29 to get upset over birthdays?" "It's older than Edward," Bella said sadly. I exhaled loudly, wishing that Bella could understand how much I desired to stay older than her, to grow old with her, how she was the fortunate one. "Technically, just by 1 little year, though." Bella considered Alice's words and then relaxed a bit. Maybe she could see how much better it was for her to stay human after all. "What time will you be at the house?" Bella tensed again, and her grip on my hand tightened. I didn't know I had plans to be there. The vision of Bella refusing to attend her party got clearer in Alice's mind, and I groaned mentally. Alice did not accept this future either, and fought furiously to change it. "Oh, be fair, Bella. You aren't going to ruin all our fun like that, are you?" "I thought my birthday was about what I want," Bella snapped. "I'll get her from Charlie's right after school," I said, hoping to calm Alice down. "I have to work," Bella said smugly. "You don't, actually," Alice replied. Bella's face went red again. "I already spoke to Mrs. Newton about it. She's trading your shifts. She said to tell you happy birthday." I still can't come over. Well, I haven't watched Romeo and Juliet yet for English." As Alice tried vainly to convince Bella to forego watching the movie, I could see my sister's deeply buried temper rise. Finally, it broke through, and she turned to me with ice in her voice. "This can be easy, or this can be hard, Bella, but one way or another." The image of Alice dragging a screaming Bella through the forest was an unwelcome sight in my mind. "Relax, Alice. If Bella wants to watch a movie, then she can. It's her birthday." Alice pursed her lips. "Don't you dare side with her. You want this as much as I do. I know it." "So there," Bella said. I almost expected her to stick out her tongue. "I'll bring her over around 7. That will give you more time to set up." Alice looked into the future and saw Bella and me walking calmly up the steps of my home, and brightened. "Sounds good. See you tonight, Bella. It'll be fun. You'll see." She jumped up and gave my cheek a feather's kiss before dashing off to class. Bella sulked, having lost the chance to argue further. "Edward, please." But I gently laid my finger over her mouth, her lips so soft against my stony skin. Enough arguing. "Let's discuss it later. We're going to be late for class."